Alright guys, welcome to the channel. This is my first tutorial, so please bear with me as I learn how to do tutorials. I can't learn if I don't start, so here we go. What I'm going to do is teach you how to turn tiling PBRs into non-tiling PBRs that are displaced correctly so that the displacement matches up with the locations of whichever PBR is showing. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Delete the default cube, Shift A to add a plane, tab into edit mode, scale it up by 5, let's tab out. Alright, before I forget, let me subdivide this. I'm going to do 50. Subdivide it 50 times, and then add a subdivision surface modifier on it. And then I'm going to switch to cycles, and under the shaders tab, hit new, name this ground. I'm going to scroll down under settings here, right under settings, under surface, from bump only, I'm going to change that to displacement only. Alright, that's very important because the displacement is going to be working with cycles. It does not work with Eevee, but I will show you guys how to bake it out and use it in Eevee. I will be showing you that. So I think that's everything I need to do for now. In the shaders tab, with Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you go to edit, preferences, and then under add-ons search for Node Wrangler, select that, and then save preferences. I'm going to select this principled shader, and Control-Shift-T will pull up your file browser. I'm going to go to my folder here that I have the textures I'm going to be using, and sand. I'm going to link to these. They're all from textures.com, and I will link to them in the description of the video below. I'm going to start off with the Desert Sand 3. I'm going to select the albedo, height, normal, and roughness, and then hit Principled Texture Setup. And that will set everything up properly for you. I'm going to do Shift A, search for a mix RGB, and then I'm going to duplicate it 3 more times. So Shift D, so I got 4 total. With these two, I'm going to select them, Control J to join them, and then hit N to pull up this panel, and I'm going to name it Displaced. And then for these two, I'm going to hit Control J, and I'm going to name it Height Map. Alright, so I'm going to take this displacement and drag it into the first socket of the bottom one, and then for the height map, we don't want the displacement map, just the texture into the bottom of the second one, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is Shift D, drag this up, and then Control Shift T again, and I'm going to search for rock sandy soil, which is right there. And then same thing with this one. Drag these up, take the displacement into the second socket, and the non-displaced into the second socket, just like that. I'm going to move these out of the way for now. Alright, so we're going to be using a Voronoi texture. So search for Voronoi texture. And then with Node Wrangler, you can do Control T, and it'll set up the mapping and texture coordinate nodes automatically for you. And then a color ramp. Drag the distance into the color ramp. And then I'm going to leave it at the scale at 5, but if I view this, you'll see it's just kind of black and white. but you want to bring in these blacks quite a bit and change F1 to smooth F1 so it looks like that. And then the black, oh sorry, so the black part of this will be one texture and the white part will be another. That's what we're doing. Alright, now I'm going to do Shift A. I'm going to search for a mix shader and drag this into the factor. The bottom principled BSDF here, and then the top principled BSDF into the second. And then before I forget, move this out of the way. You're going to take the displaced one and you're going to bring the output into the displacement of the material output, and then the Voronoi texture is going to go into the factor. On this displacement, I'm going to change it to 0.2 on the scale, and then same with the other one, 0.2. And then if I control, oh, I forgot to tell you, to view one with Node Wrangler, you hit Control Shift and left click on the node, and it will solo that out and show you that one. And if I switch over to cycles here, you will now see that it is displacing properly where it should be. So I got the rocks displaced properly and then the sand displaced properly. Mind you, I'm going to have to increase the subdivision on this so it'll look better. But for now, I'm going to add in our third one. So I'm going to Shift D on that, Control Shift T, and then I'm going to look for the sand debris. And then I'm going to hit principled texture setup. I'm going to change, no, I'm going to leave that at 1. And then this, I'm just going to copy this whole setup right here. So the Voronoi setup and the mix shader, and Shift D that. I'm going to take these two and bring them up here so that we can see what we're doing. Alright, so you're going to do the same thing with this one. This displacement goes into the bottom of the second one, and then the non-displaced goes into the bottom of the second one. Change the scale to 0.2, and this second Voronoi is going to be the factor of both of these. And then the bottom ones on these will go into color 1, just like that. And then make sure you have your displaced one going into your material output here, like so. And then this one on the mix shaders here, bring this up. I'm going to move these out of the way for now so you're not confused. I'm going to take this very top shader and bring it into the second, or the first one. Bring it into the first one, and then bring this one into the second one. Control Shift left click to view that. And oh, well, in order to get it changed up, you got to change your mask a little bit. So I'm going to bring this to 2.5. Back to previous. And yeah, let me Control Shift click on this one. Alright, just make sure to Control Shift view that, see how that looks. Yeah, so as you can see, let me increase the subdivision on this to 2. You got your sand. I'm going to turn off scene world for now. I'm going to select this one right here. Alright, so as you can see, well, not really. I'm going to switch over to my GPU render. Much better. Alright, so you got the rocks and the sand and the debris all mixed together beautifully, displaced properly. Increase this to 3. Now, if you want to, which I recommend you do, you can Shift A, add an image texture. I'm going to hit new. I'm going to name this sand height map. I'm going to make it 2048, 32-bit float. Change this to non-color and then switch back over to CPU. And under this bake tab here, I'm going to switch it from combined to emit. And the reason we have this second one here that is not displaced is because if I Control Shift click on this and then I look at it, oh well, I grabbed the wrong one, forgive me. This one, the one that's the height map, Control Shift click on that, and this is actually what it's doing to the displacement on our mesh. And then we can bake this out as a height map. So if I switch this over to 60 samples, and then I select our texture here, and then I hit bake. Oh, okay. Select that, select the texture, and then hit bake. And I'll speed this up because it can take a little bit. Alright, so I was unaware my microphone was turned off that whole time, and I went ahead and recorded it, but this is where we left off. So you got the height map. You can go ahead and save it out. I already did that. Save it to wherever folder you want it, and then down here under displacement, turn it back to bump only. And then if we go to our look dev, and we are going to view our final output here on that second mix shader, and it's going to look like this with no displacement. But if you add modifier displace, go down to this checkerboard here, which is your displaced textures. I'm going to hit new, and then I'm going to open, and I'm going to browse to wherever I saved that out to. Mine was right here, sand height map. Go back to your modifiers tab and change it to UV, and then you can change it to something like 0.3, and it's going to look much better. This way you can now use this inside of Eevee. I'm going to go ahead and crank this all the way up to 4. And then what I'm going to do is Control A to apply these modifiers. Control A. And this is just if you need to optimize it. You can do that. And then decimate it down to, say, 0.2. And then I'm going to Control A on that. And yeah. Alright. So, yeah. Looks good to me. You can always go in and mess with the colors of your textures if you want them to look more a part of the same world. So if I bring up my shaders panel here, I had already recorded this, but I slapped in a hue saturation value, and then what you can do is just tweak it to your liking. You can change the hue or the saturation. Even just bringing the value up and down will darken it or brighten it. Sorry, my baby's crying in the background. But yeah, you can tweak these to make them look like they should all be in the same environment. Mind you, you don't want to do a desert scene with snow, or maybe you do, I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.